Ecological Tools. In this video, scientists will be able to comprehend the ecological tools available to ecologists when trying to restore a habitat. The big question here is, how can we fix an ecosystem? When considering how to fix an ecosystem, one tool available is called eradication. If you think about what it means to eradicate, to remove something, that's what the tool is. Eradication is when you use hunting, traps, or removal to kill an entire species in an area. The less extreme version of this is to apply hunting pressure to reduce a population. Now there's a couple examples. In the pictures you can see some ecologists removing an invasive plant, so a plant that does not belong in that ecosystem. They could go out and chop down and dig up every single one of those plants in an ecosystem. They could remove it from the food web. You can do the same thing with animals. For example, there is a population of feral, which means wild, feral hogs in parts of the United States that have gotten out of control. And hunters have to go into areas to kill the entire population of those feral hogs. As an ecologist, you can also use re-vegetation. Think about the word. So vegetation meaning plant. Re means to do again. So re-vegetation, to replant. Re-vegetation is when ecologists plant lots, and I mean hundreds or thousands or millions of plants by hand. In the pictures you can see trees that have been planted to restore a forest, or grasses to restore a wetland. Again, these are plants being put in by hand, so this is usually a one-time effort. On the abiotic front, you can have habitat enhancement. Think about what it means to enhance something. You make it better. Habitat is a place where plants and animals live, so I could make a habitat better. In habitat enhancement, ecologists focus on improving the abiotic features, the non-living features of an environment, to make it more suitable for a species. The example that's nearby for us is in the Chesapeake Bay. Maybe you've heard that the Chesapeake Bay has oysters. Oysters like to live on top of old oyster shells. So in order to make the Chesapeake Bay more fit for oysters to grow, ecologists have been adding millions and millions of oyster shells to the bay. By adding those oyster shells, we can help the oysters that live in the Chesapeake Bay grow and reproduce. In the picture to the right of that, you can see an excavation tool being used to make a brand new wetland. So to make the habitat for certain species bigger. We're not adding any of the living things, we're simply enhancing what is there to make it a better place for plants and animals to live. Now, if you have one species that's really in trouble, another tool is called captive breeding. Think about the words you know there, captive and breeding. Captive means when we have something controlled, perhaps in a zoo. Breeding is when organisms reproduce. So we're having organisms reproduce in a captive setting. This tool is when animals are bred in captivity and then released into the wild. There's two great examples. The first is the giant panda. In zoos across the world, there are panda couples that have panda cubs. Part of the deal with the Chinese government to have pandas is that panda cubs often have to be returned to China. So The cubs are being born in zoos, the cubs are being born in captivity, and then they are transported to China and released back into the wild. Another example is the California condor. This was a vulture with wings bigger than my arms. That population almost completely died until scientists started removing eggs from the nest, raising the chicks by hand, and then releasing the chicks back into the wild. The problem was that the chicks were dying in the wild, so scientists helped raise them where it was safe before releasing them. Another option is called introduction. When you are introducing, you are presenting something new, and that's what introduction means. Introduction is when you release a new species to compete, predate, or be prey for another species. This tool really brings to mind Australia. One thing about Australia is that it is covered in rabbits and cane toads. Rabbits were brought to Australia. They did not originally live there. They were brought to Australia and raised for meat until a few of the rabbits got out, and now there are a new population of rabbits within Australia. Those rabbits are competing versus native species. The same thing with the cane toad. In Australia, there was beetles. They were eating crops. So they found a frog that ate the beetles. That frog was released into the environment to predate on the beetles, and it did a great job eating the beetles. Now they have a problem of too many frogs, but it did its job, I suppose. The final tool is called relocation. Think about the words re and location. Re means to do something again. Location is your spot or your place. Relocation basically means put it into a new place. Relocation is when ecologists capture and move a species to a new location. In the picture on the left, you can see two lions that have been tranquilized. Perhaps in Africa, there's an area that doesn't have enough lions. Well, if another spot in Africa has too many lions, you can simply move lions from the area with a big population to an area with a smaller population. The same thing you can see here is happening to giraffes. They can simply move the giraffe from one area to another. And that takes us to our key ideas. Ecosystems can be restored using different ecological tools. And each of those tools serves a different purpose to increase or decrease a population.